All right, it's Monday night. You know what that means. Rhamondre Stevenson, I hope, has just not had a TV dinner and fumbled on his way from the kitchen to the couch. Mike Giardi's here. It's week 3. Patriots are 1-2, but you and I still feel undefeated. This is a good start. Did I fumble it myself by being mean?
I was thinking, like, did you ever? I like the Salisbury steak back in the day, like when I was like 8 or 9.
No.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole now, but like back then, like that was a treat. Oh, Salisbury steak.
Oof. You know, I'll tell you, the Stouffer's mac and cheese,
yeah.
Like there's a little bit of childhood nostalgia in there. But man, if I ever come home, which I don't know when this would be next, like drunk, late night, Friday, Saturday, I'm just going to have, like, future me has to prepare for that and have some Stouffer's there because it's just going to make my night. Anyway, we are hoping to make your night here, Pat's Interference Podcast, part of the unassailable, unpredictable, unshakable CLNS Media Network, brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, by the way, of course, you're going to hear from them later. We're 4-0 on the show the last couple of weeks. We told you about Drake Maye's probably going to throw a touchdown pass. Calvin Austin's going to make some catches. So hang in just there. We start, as we always do, with why the Patriots lost. Let's do that in one sentence. They lost the ball 5 times and had a turnover at the end of the game. So we revisit that because that's just the truth. We all know what's there. But Mike and I have spent a ton of time going through the film, figuring out what you missed, stats, play calling breakdowns, plays, blocks, pressures, coverage. Everything you want to know is coming up now. The Patriots, of course, have to turn the page here in a second, and that's just where I want to start because you have a player who helped you win a game in Miami who might now be benched in some kind of capacity. And so I put the question to you, Mike Giardi. Rhamondre Stevenson, 2 fumbles, 9 total now in the last 13 months. What do you do with him?
So I'm dressing him on Sunday, but I'm going to use him sparingly. You know, I think they still trust him in pass protection, which is why we saw him for a couple snaps in the fourth quarter. And with Trevion Henderson's issues with pass protection thus far, and I don't think that that's necessarily a strength for Antonio Gibson, they still feel comfortable with that. So it's maybe you're not going to get the football very much, but we want you to go in there and contribute in some way, shape, or form, and hopefully they can work this thing out. Although, again, as you mentioned, it's 9 fumbles in 19, 20 games here over the last season and a third, so not even a third. So I don't know. This might just be who he is.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, this is a guy who got into better shape, has had a couple of disappointing seasons here. In 2022, literally carried the team until he broke down. And granted, that was an 8-9 football team. But you look at his touches, those are numbers straight out of like 1994, where it was all running backs all the time. There's a couple other personnel changes the Patriots made on Sunday, and they involve defense. Alex Austin, see ya. Christian Ellis, goodbye. I don't expect them to be back, mostly because Christian Gonzalez, fingers, toes crossed, will play football finally on Sunday. But Christian Ellis is another case. Is that all you're doing on defense? Are you making any other personnel changes?
No, I think that's about it for me. I don't think that Ellis is going to be completely staple to the bench. My guess is that you're going to see a rotation there. And obviously, they like what they've seen from Arte Mapu in the brief sample size we've given. So you're seeing him more on those third and obvious passing situations where he comes in alongside Spillane as the other linebacker, if you will. We saw Jack Gibbons, and Jack Gibbons is fine. Smart guy, tends to be in the right place, a little bit limited athletically. They invested in Ellis. I don't think he's going away just yet. And to me, those are the 2 big moves defensively that you talked about. I do have one thought on offense, but I'll let you'll hit on this first.
No, I'm with you. Cosign.
Okay.
Just keep it to those 2. I mean, we saw what the defense did once Gibbons went in for Ellis. And Marte Mapu was subbing in already on third down. We saw that start to change at halftime of the Miami game. And he's not a game changer on third down. He's just better. So that's why he was there. And the defense stabilized. They changed some coverage calls, late second quarter, and this went into the fourth, which we'll get into later. But yeah, Alex Austin, look, I think he's better than he's shown the last 2 games. But it's just untenable. You cannot play defense with the player that's walking around with a kick me sign on his back for every quarterback, whether it's he's going to commit penalties or give up catches. So I'm with you there. The one in offense, let me take a guess. You talking about Pop Douglas?
Yes.
Okay.
It pains me. Well, I shouldn't say it pains me. I thought about the idea of maybe a couple more weeks here with him. But then I started to go back and think about last year, and he's played a lot with Drake Maye. And I know you look at his numbers last year, 66 catches, and you're like, hey, that's not bad. Is he going to take the 3rd year leap, in this offense? And Josh McDaniels likes to highlight the slot receiver. But the thing that I've always been reticent about with Pop Douglas, when other people were declaring him a number one, and when other people said like he could be the guy that fits that mold of Welker and Edelman and do that sort of thing, is that he's not a player that has great feel. And it's just not gotten any better. And there were so many times here through the first 3 weeks of the season where you go, did he do the right thing there? Should he have sat? Should he have kept going when he should have sat? Like when he did sit, there's a whole bunch of stuff there that makes you think Drake seems awfully comfortable throwing to Stephon Diggs, who just got here. We know he's comfortable throwing to Kayshon Boutte. He seems fairly comfortable throwing to Mac Hollins. And yet the guy that he's probably gotten as much reps with as anybody in Pop Douglas, they can't seem to get on the same page. So to me, I'm at the point where I don't know if you can fix this working on your own kid, doing stuff for the scout team, but I think your role has to be limited, if not completely eradicated from the offense in the next couple of weeks and see what happens.
So Pop Douglas sees 5 targets yesterday. He catches 2 passes, 7 yards. We know he had 8 before that last catch because his last catch went backwards 1 yard. And look, I'm going to make a case to keep playing Pop Douglas here, okay, in defense of Pop Douglas, which I don't think you're going to hear a whole lot this week, and you have not heard yet on this podcast, okay? To start, though, we have to admit that was a bad decision on 4th down. I mean, Mike Vrabel said it about 5 different times, granted each time he was asked, yesterday after the game, this morning on the radio, and then midday when he's doing his day after press conference. You cannot go backwards on 4th and 1. Yes, it was a bang-bang play. You have to knife through. You have to get whatever inches you need and probably also run that route a little bit deeper, as Dan Orlovsky detailed on Twitter /X/ whatever you want to call it afterward. However, here were his other targets. Okay, Drake Maye missed him in the right flat for what should have been a massive gain in the second quarter on this very creative play action concept that Misfield throws it at his feet. Nothing happens. Same drive. Maye overthrows him on a right to left deep cross that looks like an interception until it's overturned on replay. He was open. He just missed him. Maye then hits him on a 17-yard crosser brought back by an illegal man downfield penalty committed by Mike Onwenu, and then throws behind him, as we all saw on that same drive, the last drive, on the shallow cross, where I even heard it in the press box, like, oh, Pop should have probably sat there. And I'm like, why? I don't understand. Like, he's running a shallow cross. Maybe that was a teaching point. But Maye had pressure. He threw it a little behind him. And the fact that they're not in sync, no question it's a problem. And Pop contributes to that. But to me, when I look at the other targets, I go, I don't know how many, if any, were his fault. And so for a guy who brings a skill set to the table, that just nobody else has, and that's not their fault. Like the team was assembled by Elliott Wolf and Mike Vrabel, right? I need that guy who can get yards after the catch, a guy who's a little bit slippery, because your only other guy is Epton Chisholm, but he doesn't know how to play outside receiver yet, according to his own position coach who told us that this week. So I give him Carolina. But Carolina might be the last draw for a guy who's also only playing about 20 to 30 snaps anyway, because of all those reasons. You got to feed him, and he's got to have a better chance.
I mean, it's not unfair. And that's why I said I sort of considered it in my head as I was thinking about this over the last 24 hours, like, how would I approach this with him? Because he does have the elusiveness when he has the ball in his hands that none of their other receivers have. There's too many times where quarterback and receiver just aren't on the same page. And you start to look at those situations and say, like, well, the quarterback's not going anywhere. He's your quarterback. So can I find someone who can be trustworthy and reliable in that spot? And while I'm not overwhelmed by what I've seen from Stephon Diggs through 3 weeks, I think, quite frankly, he lacks explosiveness. And everything you've seen with him has basically been underneath, stopped to a certain spot, because I think that's what he is at this juncture. And again, we talk about this, maybe the knee, maybe in 2 months, he's got a little bit more juice in his legs. But I wonder, he's 31, right? But I know already they're throwing to spots, they're trusting him to be in those spots, and he's caught 13 of the 15 targets. Do the 3 more receptions from Pop Douglas over the course of these 11 targets that he's gotten over 3 weeks, does that change the outcome of the game? And you're right, Drake completely butchered the one in off the motion that should have been an explosive play for them. And maybe we're looking at it differently again. I just think, to me, it's not just about this last game. It's not about Miami. It's not about Vegas. It even goes back to last year, where I think this player doesn't have feel for football. And 95% of the time, you either got it or you don't, and he just doesn't appear to have it. So would I be better served making him not dress, putting in Epton Chisholm and saying, I don't know that he can play against these guys yet because he's only done it against 2 3s and 4s in preseason. But maybe I want to take that chance now. Maybe I want to trust it and see if I can build something there and build my depth that way.
So we're going to get to a big dive into why they lost, what you missed in offense, what you missed in defense, their game plans on both sides of the ball, Drake Maye breakdown, studs, leftover thought, and the world famous segment, okay, let me have it, which we do. You and I take a stock, a little note of what the other guy said that we didn't really like, but we'll save it. We'll give it to you at the end. And then mailbag questions. As more people jump in, save your questions or drop in the chat right now. Amit will grab them. Our producer, our guy who is sick, literally from going to the club. We joke about it all the time. This time he's actually ill from being too close to people in a dark room with music played way too loud. Anyway, the reason I'm going to pause before getting into all that is because you mentioned feel for the game. You know who has feel for the game?
Who?
You and me, because I just have to score this win on the front end. When you are tuning in to our film breakdowns on Monday night, you will hear stuff like you heard last week when Mike and I are talking. Yeah, Steph Diggs, like when he's not getting the ball and he knows it, I'm questionable about the effort. There was this one play. He's in the slot. He's got a crossing route. His whole point in Miami in this play, it's in the first half, you can watch it, was to interfere with Rhamondre Stevenson defender. They knew they were getting man-to-man. And what happened was he didn't, and Stevenson got dropped in the left flat. And it was a yard gain. I'm like, just keep an eye on it. I know no one loves to hear this stuff, but it's something that could have changed that from a 0-yard gain into something bigger. Well, not only did Steph Diggs talk about that midweek, okay, better effort blocking, he, on the same concept, springs Rhamondre Stevenson for the longest play of the game. Forget just for the Patriots or just for, who did they play? Losing my mind. The Steelers. 23 yards because he rubbed whatever, got in the way of Stevenson's defender. Stevenson goes up the right sideline, 23 yards. That happened. That's the stuff we're telling you to keep an eye on that then will jump out to you, that everyone sees on this podcast. Okay, now that I've patted ourselves on the back, which is another thing that people don't like as much as hearing about, Steph Diggs, I'm not sure. Why did they lose? Beyond the 5 turnovers, what has your attention?
I just thought there was some, quickly, macro, 0 for 3 in the red zone defensively. Your defense did a really nice job after the first 2 series of the game when you spotted them a 14-0 lead. And 4 3-and-outs? Like they really control the interception. There were a couple kneel downs in there of possessions, but 3 times in the red zone, you don't get a stop. You get like the bend but don't break. There's got to be a field goal in there, or maybe a turnover or something where you make a play. To me, the last one, the touchdown to Austin, was kind of galling because I don't think he's particularly very good. You had Marcus Jones in there on the outside covering him. I think that's a good matchup for Marcus. It's not like a big size disadvantage, and I think he's as quick, as fast as Austin is. He gave him a shimmy shake twice and just completely left him in the dust. Marcus couldn't even get a hand on him, and Aaron Rodgers can't do all that much anymore. He can throw that little go fade touch ball, like he can throw that very well. And it was an easy throw, quite frankly, because he had him by a couple yards.
Yeah, situational defense. The first quarter defense was just non-existent. They were missing tackles here. We're doing all these different things, but it's a good point because you go 3 for 3 in the red zone. Forget the penalties, forget field position. You're probably going to win a lot of football games. I boil my answer down to the question I'm now asking and answering myself to a quote from the great legal mind of Fletcher Reed. You might go, who is Fletcher Reed? But you will remember, was the main character of a movie called Liar, Liar. And Fletcher Reed, in one particular scene, walks into his office. He's tired. He's upset. And his secretary gets a call from a client who can't stop knocking over ATM machines. The secretary says, hey, he needs some legal advice. So Fletcher picks up the phone. And it says what I would tell the Patriots right now. Stop breaking the law, asshole. Like, come on. Turnovers have got to go. The penalties have got to go. You need to stop missing tackles in the double digits if you want to be on a football field, hope to win, and leave with an actual win. You just can't do it. This is a sloppy team. It's a team that is not good fundamentally. It's not good in the macro. There's a lot of good stuff we're about to get to. But if you want to know why did they lose, they screwed up all of the basic things, like just following the law. They're tipping over ATM machines right now more than any other team in the league.
By the way, 27 penalties, I believe, through 3 games, which puts them on pace for the greatest season in team history in terms of number of penalties. And Mike's talked about it 2 weeks ago saying, yeah, it's a 50-50 whether you win the penalty battle, that you actually win the game. It's not, I used to be obsessed with it. I'm not as obsessed. Well, they start off the game again with a bunch of stupid penalties. And look, were there some bad calls? Yeah, the Carlton Davis DPI, dog crap. Marcus Jones getting called for what do they call him for that on that when he knifed? Yeah, like I thought he was just trying to make a tackle, but those are safety rule they implemented there. But there is a lot of stupidity. I don't know if you want to, while we're on that subject of self-inflicted wounds and stupidity, should we talk about the quarterback right now, or do you want to save that for a little later?
I'll save that for a little bit later because
Okay.
we do these 5 stats, which
Yes.
I know Mike Vrabel has his own set of stats that kind of define winning and losing for him, but we got to hit on these now because if you want to know how a game went, you can tell who won based on these 5 things. Okay, turnovers: Patriots had 5, Steelers had 1. Explosive play rate: Patriots 5.6%, that's low. Steelers 4.1%, that's obviously lower. Success rate: okay, how often are you staying on schedule? Patriots offensively 52%, Steelers same thing. Red zone efficiency, another gap, 2 of 4 for the Pats, 3 of 3 for the Steelers. And defensive pressure rate: how much are you affecting, getting after and bothering and harassing the quarterback? Patriots at 25%, according to the chart again I had, and the Steelers at 36.2. So you can see Steelers get a big edge in turnovers. It's about the same when you look at explosive play rate and success rate, but they finished drives better, and they got after Drake Maye, who had some of those mistakes. We did title this podcast, though, The Good That You Missed. And we spent a lot of time screaming, or I've spent a lot of time screaming about the bad. So I do want to start on Drake Maye. Give me some good, though, because Vrabel hit on it after the game, and I think he's totally right. Turnovers erase all of the good that you do. And when you watch most of that Drake Maye game, which doesn't dismiss or discount, we can hold the good things in one hand and the bad things in the other hand, okay? This does not have to be an either or. There's a lot in the good hand. What stood out to you on that side?
After what again looked to be a little sluggish start, where I sensed a little hesitation in the first couple series, he settled in and made a lot of good decisions, was accurate with the football, was decisive with the football. I love the movement again, sort of the boot action, some of just the rollout stuff. Like he's very comfortable doing that, and we talked about it last week. It's take some stuff off his plate when you do that because you're reducing the number of reads. You're either going high low or you're flooding the zone. But it's like just make a play here. You see it, throw it. If you don't, run. And he ran well. He ran athletically in the game, so that there were certainly big portions of that. I mean, he led 2 incredibly long drives. 17 play, 94-yard drive that, of course, ends with the interception in the end zone. But like 4th down conversions, like just heady stuff that you're like, that's what I want to see from my young quarterback. It's just, as we mentioned, there's other parts of it that tend to erode all the confidence that he built up with some of the plays that he didn't make or plays that he turned the ball over.
So how about this? This is something that people probably missed. Drake shredded the blitz. He was 11 of 14, 95 yards, had a touchdown against it. Okay. You mentioned seeing coverage. I don't think he was fooled once. He might have had a different view of whether or not he could get a throw in or misplaced, the arc in a particular throw, as we saw in the pick. But the Steelers did not fool him. And they played a lot of cover 1. They played a lot of cover 3. They'd spin into some, I'm not going to say 3 buzz, by the way, about a billion times.
Come on.
That's that for later. So Tampa 2, okay. He found the holes in the zone. He threw, as you said, accurately, an accurate throw percentage of 83%. So 5 out of every 6 throws, boom, right on the money. And for me, for a guy who's spreading the ball around, but sticks to the game plan, which, to be clear, started off like we saw in Miami, right? Like there's a lot of outside zone. There's the bootleg concepts. And then McDaniel goes, well, I can't trust my running backs to pass protect or hold on to the ball. So we got to go quick game, right? We have these long developing play action passes. We got to do something new. So it's a wholly different attack. And Maye thrived. It was in the gun. It was getting out of his hands quickly. Yeah, there were sacks, the interception, but like the fact he could vacillate between those 2 different styles and have similar success while maintaining discipline for a while, not always, is really encouraging. It's like this is the part of growing pains where you go, okay, the kid climbed up a couple steps on the stairs and then smacked his face on the 5th. But as long as you keep going up, that's progress. That's what we've seen, even if he was not climbing as high as he did in Miami.
Do you know the counter argument to all that you just presented there was, okay, but when are you going to make the plays happen when it matters the most. And we have whatever it's been now, 14, 15 starts of his, where with the exception of the Tennessee game leading the comeback to tie the game up with 0 seconds left, but then, oh, by the way, throwing the interception in overtime, he hasn't had that moment, and he's had opportunities for that moment. I think maybe that's the talk radio thing or whatever, but like I think the confidence that the entire team, the entire organization would get from him delivering in a late game situation like that is something that when we talk about this team still learning how to win and like learning how to trust each other, like if they look at Drake and go, no, he's got it. I just do my thing. He's got it. And I don't think they're there yet. He shows you those signs and he's taking those steps up the stairs. But thus far, all too often, he has bloodied his lip. And many occasions, then he's taken a step back before he starts climbing again.
So I've talked a lot on this show about his, you call them YOLO tendencies, the wild stallion tendencies. I know how athletic I am. I know how good my arm is. I know that the environment around me is not conducive to just pew pew, play on time, do as I'm told, and that'll be good enough because you're not getting protection or DeMario Douglas doesn't run the proper route, whatever it might be. I need to do more. Okay, Vrabel said this after the game. He needs to know he can't win everything all in one play. And I think, again, for the most part, he tamed a lot of those tendencies. But you saw on his last 2 sacks that come to fruition, right? The strip sack where he's got nobody open, might have had Hunter Henry left seam, okay, decided not to throw it. Yep. That's got to go into the stands or on the ground with you, tucking it to yourself. Then the last sack, 1st and 10, that last drive, sets him back 3 yards. He had a check down to the right. Literally cocked his arm, like, I'm going to throw this. Trayvon Henderson is wide open. Pulls it down instead. The thing that interests me, and I got a theory now developing about this.
Oh, I like this.
Is each of those sacks where he passed up a safe decision for a riskier one came right after he had a successful scramble for a first down. So the reward of taking the risk for the extending play is fresh in his mind. It's the whole experience. And then the next snap, when he's tempted to do so again, though in less conducive circumstances, he takes the same risk without the same reward. And to me, his ability or the way that he learns to find that balance, now is the time to go. When I'm on a rollout, nobody's there, but I'm already on the move. I got time and space. That's the time to extend a play or create. Not when things are closing in around me. But clearly, and I get the confidence. The guy's 23 and immensely talented and has done this now for 2.5 years behind bad offensive lines. He's got to put on the cape, come out the booth, and fly if the team wants to go down and score a touchdown. But you understand you do that often enough, you can get shot down and sometimes shoot yourself down. And the timing of that late in the game, when it was clear that he had to do a little bit more. And look, I couldn't do this. Like, this is all under pressure. You have to figure out when and where to go and when not to. Right after those scrambles is something that I'm watching now because the timing, I don't think was an accident.
You're going to now have to go back for the people, the audience here, for your folks at the Boston Herald, and go back and look at some of the other decisions in the first couple weeks and see if there is a pattern there that goes beyond just this game as to whether no. Look at me, I'm assigning more work to you. You're welcome. Because you don't have enough to do, so you should do a little bit more. But it is an interesting theory.
The counter argument would be all of the scrambles in the first half did not follow, or excuse me, the sacks in the first half did not follow scrambles. Like he was throwing on time or handing it off. Like those weren't there. But in the fourth quarter, game's on your shoulders. You're going down. You can't really run the ball. You haven't run the ball all game, which was another problem. Like that to me, I think he wants to do it again. He's done it once. It's not there. I'll show you. You know?
Well, I mean, and we were texting back and forth, the fumble, the strip sack, where it's pretty much immediate that there's pressure, and he does the right thing initially, right? The ball comes in here. He's got the ball in his body. He's trying to navigate the pocket and not get the ball knocked away. And then for some inexplicable reason, which I believe he called stupid in the postgame, when you asked the question about what happened there, he decided he wanted to flip the ball to Trayvon Henderson. Now, when you go back and look at the tape, he's kind of going this way. Henderson's come this way. I don't know how in the hell he thinks that he's going to get the ball there. Like, if he flips it like we've seen some of these quarterbacks do, the backhanded flip, that's not getting there. If he tries to do it this way, his body's pulling him this way. And again, the defender is still right there. Like, I don't know how it's going to get there. So it was just one of those moments where, whether you want to call it hero ball, YOLO, whatever, I'm invincible because I'm 23, trying to make a play there. Dude, you had the right thought. You put the ball away, and then to take it out, leads to a just an awful play, quite frankly, a play that can't happen.
I'll tell you too, I think part of this, at least early on, the first sack that he took, he had so locked in on Hunter Henry. And we're going to get into this in a second because their whole game plan was just pick on the Steelers linebackers until they break. Just immense pressure with play action and misdirection and more motion. It's just everything on Hunter Henry. He had 11 targets. The next closest Patriot had 4. Okay. So he's staring down Henry as a way to abide by the exact plan that Josh McDaniels had laid out. Didn't move off, has to take a 0-yard sack. So some of these mistakes are not all, again, wild stallion running out, 23, young, invincible, I'll show you. And sometimes you just have to learn the hard way and get that knocked out of you because it wasn't going to happen last year when that was their whole offense, right? Like his scrambling boosted his EPA way higher than it would have been had he not been a scrambling quarterback. And there's a bigger discussion about like he grew up watching Rodgers, who made all these throws and, side arm angles and off platform and outside of structure. And you go further back, like Rodgers created some of that, but he watched Brady and Manning. There's a bigger conversation. Since I mentioned the game plan, I like this from Josh. It just didn't work because they couldn't run the ball as much, right?
No, you're 100%. So to me, coming into it, I was like, they've got to attack these linebackers because they don't have a downhill thumper. They are pass game players largely. Peyton Wilson, Patrick Queen. They play well in space. They're not thumpers. They don't come forward, but they're also slow processors.
Yes. Nate Tice said this last week. He declared that they were dumb and then immediately regretted it. And then I used the same term later in the pod just to make it feel better. But then we all felt bad. So yes, they're slow.
Yes. So yes, not that these guys aren't smart people, but in terms of football and processing, it just doesn't happen for them like that. So when you do all that, you get the play action, you mess with them formationally, you hit them from different angles. Their head's spinning. They're having a hard time with just your basic stuff. Never mind when you start to give them the advanced stuff. And to your point, I mean, they still controlled the damn game. They still almost 2-1 them in total yardage, right? So they did a lot of good things offensively that the turnovers and just, the inability to kind of control the ball that way. And I will say the run blocking it wasn't quite week 1 bad because week 1 was pretty horrific, but it was good. And if you want to take a little off Drake, put a little less pressure on him, you got to be able to run the football somewhat effectively. And they couldn't really do it in the game.
Yeah, there's no question that all that success in Miami, 33 points, 27 in offense, came from a team that could run and throw at the same time. And the Dolphins, sure, have a bad defense. But like when Drake doesn't have to do everything, he doesn't feel like he has to do everything and then makes those plays late in the game, which is not to absolve him of that. He cannot continue to turn the ball over and develop into the quarterback I think he'll be, or the Patriots need him to be. He's got to cut it out, period, end of story. The thing is, when they're basing this plan on these rolled out bootlegs, which start with an outside zone fake, but all your actual outside zone runs are going for like 2 yards a carry, you can't run those plays as much because then it's just a giveaway over time. Oh, it's just another boot. This is a fake run action. The one thing that did work in critical situations, but not overall, because this is another part of the plan, all right? You're getting them in, bootleg, play action. Their play action rate was 30%. This is the highest this season. Feed the tight ends, all that different stuff. Was they wanted to do what the Seahawks did last week and the Jets did the week before, which was run the hell away from TJ Watt because the Steelers splits on runs that they faced going to the left. So the offense is left. TJ Watt is always aligned to the offense's right. Okay, so this is going away from Watt. The Steelers allowed in the first 2 weeks 6 yards a carry. At Watt was 2.5. So the Patriots go, well, of course, we're going to try a little bit of that, but we don't want to be too obvious. So they run at Watt, and then they go in the middle. And then the big key to this was you go strong to the formation to the right. So we'll put tight ends over at Watt. So not only is it just your best player, you got to put more players over there, and we'll just run behind just our left guard and left tackle on the left side, and we'll go far. Patriots tried that 16 times. 5 times for 16 yards in the first half. They converted on 4th down. But otherwise, when you're not running with your base stuff to support the play action game, and then you're not running to the left, which 10 yards were on the speed option to Stevenson. I know I'm going long here. So your 4 other runs that account for 6 yards, like that's another thing kind of take it away from you and put more on Drake's plate.
Yeah, and by the way, the Stevenson 10-yard run was Stevenson.
Yes.
Like, he was dead
Yeah.
to rights in the backfield. That would have been a disaster because that was from your own 15-yard line. And I think it was Herbig. You know, we hit him with a little cutback, and Herbig slipped and fell down. And, 10 yards later, you're like, oh, whoa, like, that's bold. And it worked out in that instance. It's funny. And I was texting you at various points during the afternoon. There was the one series, I think it was, I should have wrote this down. I think it was their scoring drive to tie it at 14, where I had like 5 different runs went to hell from 5 different guys. It was, hey, Mac Hollins, you're asking him to dig out a linebacker, doesn't do it. The next one, it's Mike and who whiffs on a block. Then the next one, it's leakage off the backside guard. And it was like literally play after play after play. You can't just say, hey, so-and-so's just not playing good enough. It was errors, physical or mental, by the entire group at times during the course of the game. So you can't even pinpoint it on one spot and say, like, that guy helped, get us to where we were on the wrong end of the score here. It was just a general, one play was your mistake, the next play was mine, and they've got to gain more consistency. And you'd hope, based on last week, that would roll into this week. Now, this was obviously a better front of down linemen than they faced. Not that Miami's are garbage, but this is a better front. And Cam Hayward Cam Hayward got a $3 million raise in incentives. They should just write him out that check right now, because he did $3 million worth of work on that Patriots offensive line.
Does he make the Hall of Fame?
It's a great question, right? Because does he have? I don't think he has a Super Bowl ring. I think their last ring came before he got there. It was Tomlin's first or second year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to be close. He doesn't, like, you could make the argument like Richard Seymour gets in, but he basically got in because of the numbers that he got in Vegas when they let him rush the passer, but also then he brought the cachet of the rings that he had with the Patriots before he went over to Vegas, and Hayward's not going to have that. So, I know Pittsburgh has some good influence on these sorts of things when it comes time to it, but he's not a first ballot guy, and that might take a little while if he gets in at all.
Well, let's hit the offensive line while we're on them right now, because he gave, predictably, Jared Wilson fits. And Jared Wilson gave up 3 hurries, and Will Campbell gave up 4 pressures, 2 quarterback hits, 2 hurries. You go down the line, Morgan Moses gave up a sack to TJ Watt and a QB hit. You probably could have put that down before the game and just kind of like bake that into your expectations. TJ Watt is going to get his against 34-year-old Morgan Moses, even though the Patriots had chips and they booted and they motioned and all this different stuff. Drake Maye ran into 1 sack, and the streak is over. RIP for all the Garrett Bradbury stands out there. We need a nickname for the group that does not exist. But anyway, he had 1 hurry, and it was on the misfire to pop on the last drive, 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13, and just throws it at his feet because Drake had someone at his feet. Mike Owen, who gave up 1 hurry, had the penalty. And then I had 7 pressures spread around the team, which is where, you get outnumbered in the rush, or you have multiple guys lose, or there's just something that goes coverage sack, for example, that's not like, hey, it was his fault. So when they're scoring up those runs, and to your point, I have my lovely little game log here, charting every single play during the game. My little yellow legal pad.
I've got working a double notebook lately.
Oh, okay. You feel like you worked harder because you got 1 notebook in each hand?
Well, because my writing gets so and I start going, and then if I put it on another page, and then I correlate the pages, so it's 1 and 1 and 2 and 2. Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be a more efficient way, but it's working for me right now to a degree, I guess.
Anyway, so to tie together these points, where the offensive line was just on fire in Miami. Okay, just shutout performance aside from 2 pressures, fantastic. They had 3 runs where they allowed 2 yards, or gained 2 yards in that drive. Okay, 3 runs for 2 yards. They had 2 runs where they gained just 1 yard, and this despite the game plan I just highlighted. This team where they are giving you free yards. Okay, like Pez, just dispensing them to anyone who runs left. Okay, in the first 2 weeks. The Patriots went unbalanced. They put Will Campbell on the right side. They go, oh, yeah, we're loading up over here, and tried to go left. 2 yards. They had outside zone left. That actually picked up 5. But the next time they tried it, unbalanced was 2. So they're chugging along slowly, play action to Hunter Henry for 15. And they're moving their way down because it becomes the quick game passing attack. The one big quibble, and this is my last thought on offense, whatever you got, follow it up, with the game plan and the execution and the evolution. Aside from the turnovers, we all get it. Turnovers are bad. Really bad when they get up to 5. Kayshon Boutte deserved more targets.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this because I want another helping of Crow, or I want to avoid more helpings of Crow, as we ate live here on the show a couple of weeks ago. It's because the other weakness that McDaniels targeted, aside from the linebackers, was Brandon Echols, who you'll remember came away with an interception because Hayward got a pinky on Maye's pass right before halftime. But otherwise, they were testing his aggression. It was a lot of fakes in his area. It was a lot of delayed releases from the tight ends. They said, we're going after you. And the only time they tried Kayshon Boutte deep down the left sideline against Brandon Echols, he got a pass interference penalty. Yeah. So your best receiver by production, by playing time, by most yards in a game so far this season is that guy. He only saw 3 targets and he had 2 catches. That to me is not enough. I think the Steelers' corners were hurt. Obviously, you're down Joey Porter Jr., you're missing a safety, and Deshaun Elliott. And Jabril Peppers played great, so Deshaun Elliott might as well have played. But the point is, I think they could have diversified the way they attacked Pittsburgh a little bit more, even if I liked what was underpinning McDaniels' plan with a variety of motion and personnel packages in the play action.
In general, when we think of the McDaniels offense, and obviously it was run for a large part of his success with Tom Brady quarterback, and Tom liked to, for a long time, like to spread the ball around. And, you know, the ball's going to the guy that's open. Later in his career, it was a little bit less of that. It was more of, I just trust this guy and I'm going to throw it to him all the time. I'm going to spam the hell out of it. But there are times when I watch Josh's offense and I say, we're getting no production from all these different receivers. We're getting no explosives from all these different receivers. And you know who's been my most consistent guy? It's been Kayshon. You know who gave me my biggest plays in week 1? It was Kayshon. Like, you know what? I know I've got this thought process and I'm mapping this game out in my head, and this is, I'm going to do this here, and if they do this, I'm going to do that. Every once in a while I say, screw it. I'm going to get the ball to Kayshon and see if he can make a play, or see if he can draw a flag, which is the same thing. You know, you look at someone like George Pickens now in Dallas when he was in Pittsburgh. Like, I mean, forget about all the nonsense that comes with him, but like, he, in the last 2 or 3 years, leads the league in defensive pass interferences drawn. So like, he doesn't get credit for the 250 yards he gets in DPIs every year, but like, that's a number that belongs to him. And I just wonder and I'm not saying Boutte's the same type of physical, you know, has the same physical gifts as Pickens does, but to me, with the lack of production they're getting from wide receiver, 7 catches from the group 2 weeks ago in Miami, 12 this week for 93 yards. Like that's a Julian Edelman day, you know, and Julian would have gone over 100, but like, that's just like possession receiver, just spam the crap out of him.
That's like, late career Edelman too. Like with this receiving core, this is 2018, hobbling on one knee through wins at Cincinnati and grinding them out, you know, against the Jets. Like,
100%. So I'm with you. I think there has to be, and as I said, I've come around on Kayshon, and I'm not telling you he's a 1 because he's not, but he's your best receiver. He's to this point, you know, and so I don't know. You can't have him getting that limited number of targets. Like, he finding the football, and I'll give him credit, because if this was Kayshon of last year would have already said something that would have made you say, oh, you know, like, what's happening here? Didn't have anything, not just trying to do his thing, trying to stay with the program and pull in the right direction, which it's a sign of growth from him. We'll see if it's still like this in 3 weeks, if he still has that same feeling. But for now, I think that's another sign, like, reward that guy.
Just throwing the ball. Just figure it out. Not to mention, you saw the rewards of, you know, he's a different player, but the Steelers' whole red zone offense is just to throw jump balls. DK Metcalf, see if you can grab this one. Darnell Washington, and Aaron Rodgers is different from Drake Maye, and DK Metcalf obviously very different from Kayshon Boutte. But man, like you said, there's something to be said for, I'm going to give my best player a chance and see what he can do with it. Garrett Bradbury's Garrett's gang. Where our stands at?
Bradbury's bunch.
Bro, Bradbury's bunch.
The like Brady bunch, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. All right,
you know what? I think Garrett's got some fans. Nice guy.
He should now. Yeah. God, I'm saying he should, and now I'm trying to picture the person who's like beyond us, who have no lives, obsessing over the center stats and the protections, and you know, he had that unbelievable. We haven't mentioned
unbelievable. Yeah, hell of an
action. It's
He's Herbig,
who tweeted it, but Whirly Bird. But there's some kind of play action, and you know, he wheels back to cover the backside just in case there's any rusher. And I asked him about it. He's like, I just did not expect that, dude. It might have been Herbig. running full speed because he has to make, like, I would love to see this slow motion, fully diving, laying out 300+ pound man, okay, to make a block. And Drake's just cool as a cucumber, flips it down the left sideline. They get a big gain. But anyway, big play by Garrett Bradbury. I think Zach Cox might have tweeted out the video of it if you want to go see it. Okay. Speaking of tweets, right before the game, we tweeted from the podcast account on X, Pat's Interference. Follow it, likes it, whatever you do on X, just go there. Because we are handing out basically free picks every week. The last 2 weeks on Prize Picks, the top sponsor of this podcast, we have handed out Drake Maye more than half a touchdown, Calvin Austin more than 2.5 catches. Austin cleared that this week. Drake Maye cleared this week. Drake Maye also cleared it last week when we had him with Devon Achane for more than 3.5 catches. Achane not only had more than 3.5, he had 8. So later this week, we'll give you our Pat's Interference Prize picks of the week. And why does that matter? Well, Prize Picks is the best place to win real cash watching sports anywhere. Okay, it's very simple. It's just players and stats. And you pick the ones that you like, you forget the ones that you don't. The ones that you like, you put them in a lineup, and then you go more than or less than. So, for example, Drake Maye, is he going to throw 1 touchdown pass? Yes, I think so. I tell you on this podcast, and we've been very right the last 3 weeks. So he gets put in your lineup. You go more than half a touchdown pass. Pick another player from another team. More than, less than, rushing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, tackles, all this different stuff, but only at Prize Picks. Mike plays, I plays. You can withdraw money with Venmo or your debit card, whatever you want to do, but you have to go to Prize Picks. And if you download the app today and use code CLNS, that's CLNS, you get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's CLNS with the promo code to get $50, 50, in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Defensively, boy, this game flipped after the first 2 series. Just ask Alex Austin and Christian Ellis, who hardly played after those 2 series because those guys got benched. Everything stabilized a little bit. The other thing that I saw watching the film was, they started to play a little bit more single high structure, so your cover 1s and cover 3. And what that did is really just kind of load the box. Okay, you're running the ball. We'll commit a body, which the way the Steelers offense works, for those who don't know, operates on a lot of the Shanahan-esque elements. Okay, outside down one way, deep cross over there. If you only have one safety, that deep cross becomes a problem. Patriots said, we got this. Shut down the running game. Once this game got hoisted on Aaron Rodgers' shoulder, just someone who doesn't like pressure and is facing third and long, the offense just short-circuited. They got nothing because Arthur Smith is also not great designing things on third down. But all of this is to say that the issues were not schematic. Like, the Patriots were just screwing up to such a degree that one of the least potent offenses statistically in the league was like taking free money those first 2 drives. And yeah, they got to score late, and we'll talk about it. But they just put in better players who are more reliable, who did fewer stupid things, and played really sound defensive football.
Yeah, just a number of unforced errors, if you will, defensively the first 2 series of the game. And they did change things up a little bit. I felt like they were playing a little bit soft early. And again, that could be to your point about trying to defend against the crossers and not allowing those big plays to happen. And it allowed the Steelers to get into a fairly good rhythm offensively. Jaylen Warren was a pain in the behind for the first 2 series. And then
posterior, maybe?
Yes. We'll say, why did you leave me there? I'm not going to go there. But then they did settle in. They got a little bit bigger as the game went on, right? Especially after the second touchdown drive. They went with more beef up front, went with the big nickel with Kyle Duggar. I think it made a difference. And then, as you mentioned, the various, all right, Alex, you're not playing well. You're out. Charles Woods is in. Marcus going to play on the outside. All right, you know what? Christian, you've missed a couple tackles. You've been in the wrong place a couple times. We're going to go with Jack Gibbons and as we mentioned, Marte Mapu on obvious passing situations. So, they did everything they could do basically for the better part of the final 3 quarters of the game to give you a chance to win, even when you were turning the ball over at, ungodly rates.
And it's funny because we could talk about the Patriots defensive plan, and obviously we are, but the thing that influenced how this game was played on this side of the ball was what Pittsburgh wanted to do, which was run their base stuff, the outside zone and some boots off of that, but also just a bunch of space plays. Aaron Rodgers had 23 pass attempts, okay? 9 of them went behind the line of scrimmage. 6 of those were screens. So you're talking about more than a quarter of the called pass plays that were actually ended with him, the ball leaving his hand, were screens. Just get the ball in space, make the Patriots tackle. They screwed it up, obviously, in those first 2 drives, and Christian Ellis got sent to the bench, just missed and had bad play recognition and blah, blah, blah. Robert Spillane was very good, though. We'll get to him in a second. So the Patriots say, okay, we got to play simple. We got to play fast. And what happened, though, was in addition to that, is they did not get a ton of pressure on Rodgers. And some of this was a function, again, of that plan. If they're getting the ball out like this, if they're throwing screens, you don't have a whole lot of time to get there. But the Patriots knew they needed to get there because Rodgers just completely folds when someone's near him now. He's old, doesn't want to get hit. I don't blame him. But when they tried to heat him up, they gave up successful plays and then finally a touchdown at the end of the game that proved to be the game winner. But the success rate against the Patriots blitzes was 63%. So anytime they tried to manufacture pressure with blitzes, Rodgers got them. And that happened as many times in the fourth quarter as it did in the first 3 quarters combined. So that schematic tweak went, okay, they're starting to find a rhythm and you lost an edge and maybe one more tackle and they're running the ball. And Zach Kerr, their new defensive play caller, because Terrell Williams is still out, goes, all right, we're going to try to heat him up. Rodgers goes, I know exactly what this is. There's Calvin Austin. Here goes the dime. There goes the touchdown. And they're back on top. And I empathize because the Steelers, I think, played better up front, honestly. But you just have to stay disciplined in that area, I think, because as you get close to the red zone, the space of the field is going to help you out, right? Rodgers is going to have to hold on to the ball because there's not as much space for his guys to get free, and they're not going to throw screens at that point. So that to me was an error, but I understood because you're making these calls live, right?
Yeah, I didn't love it, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and that was almost certainly their thinking there. Is like they're starting to get into a rhythm. How can we unseat that? But I think they knew going in that's not something that they could do often, and the few times that they did dip and do it, it wasn't great. So it was like, I don't know, find a different way, call a timeout, bring everybody over, and say, I need a little bit more from you, but we can't. If we do this, we're going to expose ourselves in a manner in which we're probably not good enough to overcome. And then they certainly weren't good enough to overcome in this game. I'll go back to again. This could be a repeat theme for me. They need more from the 4-man front, right? And not that there wasn't some stuff there, but they need more because when they do that, it makes everybody's life easier. And certainly when you're down again without Christian Gonzalez, you know that in the secondary, you're even a little bit more short than you probably thought you were going to be, as they continue to work in the new safeties and different pieces alongside Carlton Davis. So I don't know. Didn't love that part of it.
So speaking of that 4-man rush, I don't have the numbers specific to there, but here are all the pressures, 100% of them that the Patriots got against the Steelers. Caleb Chason had 2, both quarterback hits. Christian Barmore had 2. Both of them were hurries. Harold Landry had a quarterback hit. Robert Spillane had a hurry, and you can give one to Kairos Tonga, who played well, but otherwise nobody else had nothing. And notably, absent from that list is Milton Williams, whose only pressure was a strip sack, except it was negated by an Alex Austin penalty. And Alex Austin committing those third down penalties literally kept the Steelers alive to go score touchdowns on those first 2 drives. So you're right. And when you back it up a little bit to the second level, mention all these missed tackles, Patriots had 12. Christian Ellis was the only guy with 2. So they benched him. Otherwise, you got one from Carlton Davis and Craig Woodson and Kyle Duggar and Tonga and Gibbons and blah, blah, blah. It's not an individual problem with the pass rush or the tackling. You just need a little bit more from everybody else. The cool part was, though, having talked to Chason after the game, you mentioned like they shut down the running game and had a couple breakdowns and that opened things up on the last Steelers drive. They got a hold of one of the Steelers line calls. And if you watch some of the outside zone they tried to run third quarter especially, they are on it. And that is Chason going, yeah, we kind of picked up on what they were saying. And I'll tell you from researching, and this is going way back now, a profile I did of Stretch, who's up in the booth and game management, blah, blah, blah. He used to, and it sounds like he still does, listens to the TV broadcast. So as you and everyone else at home is hearing Omaha or whatever the hell's going on the line, Linda, he's listening, decoding those, and passing them down at halftime. And so when they shut down that run game, you're like, oh, they're playing better. Sometimes it's just, hey, we figured you out.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff Rodgers is so particular. That's the kind of stuff that's going to go in his ear hole sideways. It'll, again, be made easier by the fact that they won the football game. It's funny, just a random aside, there's a great clip circulating where they caught hot mic caught someone saying, effing 52 is the mic or whatever. Like, and it was just a great, and then the broadcasters like tried to like talk around. Oh yeah, it's like, like, what are you gonna do? But to your point, like, they're listening for that stuff. Every little edge that you can take, you will take.
So we haven't talked about the guy who had the best game yet on defense. Robert Spillane. Welcome back. And not a minute too soon, especially when your running mate, Christian Ellis, again, could probably go to Cancun next weekend. The Patriots defense wouldn't miss him for a little bit, and he's athletic and he works hard and he's a great guy, but the play has just not been there. Spillane did 15 tackles, and he had that pick at the start of the third quarter where you're starting to feel like, all right, this might be the tide turning, blah, blah, blah. And it was just such a great play, and I tweeted this out if you want to look at the clip, or on Blue Sky too. It's 3rd and 10, and in the first half, with one of those blitzes that they got burned on, Patriots run this fire zone, and Rodgers hits them with a seam pass that goes right around, speaking of ear holes, Marte Mapu.
Yep.
And they go for 21 yards to Jonnu Smith. It's the Steelers' longest play of the game. So the start of the third quarter, it's 3rd and 10 again. And Robert Spillane makes a call that he gets from the sideline. It's cover 3 is what they're going to play. And they disguise it a little bit. But cover 3 was not that hard to decipher for Aaron Rodgers because he's Aaron Rodgers. And he goes, I want to go up the seam again because that single high coverage leaves the seams open. So Robert Spillane goes, I know he hit the left seam earlier on 3rd and 10. It was a different coverage, but the same weakness. And I know there's a guy in the slot who's ready to do that. Let me just take a deeper drop. So he goes well behind the line to gain, way deeper than you would as a normal hook player in this defense at the second level. Follows Rodgers' eyes. Sure enough, there's that left seam throw, jumps the pick, makes a play. And it's just small stuff like that, again, makes a big difference. But for a guy who's in the literal middle of everything, every single down, calling the plays, you need stuff like that. And if they keep making plays like that, you're going to win a lot of games, assuming your offense doesn't turn the ball over 5 times.
Yeah, and a little hat tip there. Credit to Chase on too for coming off the edge, and he put a hit on Rodgers too. Hurried Rodgers up a little bit, almost as if he was throwing to a spot and not necessarily looking at that spot there. And Spillane did a great job getting deep down the field, as you detailed, and it's a good tweet for those that want to see some of that stuff. I counted him well. There was one egregious mistake he made. It was his missed tackle, which happened in the flat. I think it was a swing pass to Warren, and Warren just kind of caught him flat-footed, cut back on him, and it ended up being like a 15-yard gain. But by and large, that's the guy that I saw on tape from Vegas, who when they signed him, I go, people are gonna be like, well, whatever. And I'm telling you, he's just a really good football player. And it took a little while, took a couple weeks here, but that's the football player that you were talking about that's in the middle of everything. That's the guy we saw this summer, right? Who was in the middle of everything for the entirety of the summer. So that was really good to see. They need him to play that way. As you mentioned, certainly with his running mates alongside him, not kind of carrying their weight right now. Pretty important, but like play within yourself and just be in the middle of everything.
We hit on him a little bit, but Carlton Davis shadowing DK Metcalf in kind of critical situations. Like the pattern was kind of hard to discern a little bit for me upon first watch. So, the Steelers figured out DK Metcalf will see him more often than not. He mosses him for, I think it was a 12-yard touchdown, gets the bogus defensive pass interference penalty. Metcalf also tipped off the Steelers' grand plan at the first couple of drives because they're throwing screens to him, lumbering 6'4", 230-pound, whatever, just muscle moving around, who had one of the worst 3-cone dines at the combine when he came out. They're asking him to be shifty and make a play in space because they think the Patriots tackling sucks that much. Anyway, I thought Carlton Davis did a fine job, and a lot of this is you have to win right at the either at the release, and if you're not winning at the release, you got to win in the stem of the route, like bump him off, slow things down, because we heard last week he plays smaller, Metcalf does, than his listed size. What did you make of Davis, knowing obviously things would have been different had Gonzalez been around?
I mean, that's the second straight week where they've had a hard time going his side. And look, I don't really fault him on the touchdown. Metcalf's going to get you from time to time. That's what he gets paid to do, and that's what he did there. But he does like being physical. He does like being in guys' faces, and he plays with a little bit of edge that way. And I like that. Again, when you talked about how they built this defense in the offseason, when they signed him and we're going to have Gonzalez on the other side, and then you add Milton Williams next to Christian Barmore, you're like, we're going to come at you from the inside, and we're going to have these two guys on the outside playing cat coverage, and we're going to be in pretty good shape that way. And I mean, that's that plan, because it's still there for them. There's still 13, 14 more games, whatever that, 14 more games to do that. But Yeah, I look, he comes as advertised, basically. Like that's who he's been. He's just got to stay healthy. That's the other part of who he's been.
Yeah, which is not going to happen. And it's not a huge
He was
joke.
limping around post game last night, and I saw a little
Oh,
limp
no.
today. I mean, I don't think he's going to play or anything, but like that's just it's always got something.
Yeah, he misses 4 or 5 games a year. That's just what it is.
If you could do more or less on Prize Picks games played for Carlton Davis, you would take, if it was set at 13, you'd take less.
Less than, yeah. Last notes for me, Kyle Duggar played 18 snaps, and that was, as you mentioned, okay, Alex Austin is getting burned. We don't want to play with 3 corners. And then once you're playing with 3 safeties, okay, you feel better about loading the box, beefing up a little bit, though he was a force player, one run that got outside, went for 10 yards, whatever, in the first half. The issue more is you can't play man coverage because you're then tipping off. Because you can't play man coverage, you're not trusting him in man-to-man, right? Even against Pat Freiermuth or Jonnu Smith, which then tells Rodgers, okay, I have a limited menu of this will be cover 3 if it's single high, or cover 2 or 4. They're kind of primary based stuff just based on the safety alignment. So they got out of the 3 safety stuff until the last 2 drives, which was, again, when they kind of bulked up at the tight ends. But just something to kind of keep an eye on, because even though he only played 18 snaps, if they like what they see from Kyle Duggar, that will allow him to be more involved later on. Keon White only played 13. I know he graded out highly according to the PFF, which I just love because he had the best pass rushing grade and then had no pressures. And I understand you can win without getting a pressure. And then I look at Kalen Chason, who gets an average grade. And he's above average in tackling and above average in run defense and above average in pass rush grade. Oh, but overall he was okay. Good to see Kalen White back. I'm not making any predictions with that guy, but he was there. That's my point.
I was going to say, I saw the same thing you saw on PFF, and I went through my notes again, and I was like, boy, I don't really think I wrote his name down once. And again, you can win like they were doing some of that in Miami, where not him, but other guys on the defense line were winning early, but the ball was coming out so soon that there are no pressures, there are no hurries, there are no quarterback hits. But I mean, if they can get him going, that would be certainly a benefit for the defense.
All right, that's it. Studs, really quickly. We got leftover thought. Okay, let me have it. And a couple mailbag questions. If you are live with us now and you want to know something we have not covered, or you want to just ask any question that you would like. I was talking Stouffer's mac and cheese in the first minute and a half of this podcast. Drop a question now in the comments and we will get to 4 or 5 at the very end. So, Studs.
Spillane, obviously. Harold Landry, I just think the motor never – he didn't have a big statistical game. The motor never stops. I'll actually give a stud to Morgan Moses. They left him alone a decent amount with TJ Watt, and TJ Watt didn't ruin the football game. In fact, was it the strip set? Whatever. Anyway, I forget what note I was going to make there. We'll just move on. And Hunter Henry, who, he had the knee wrapped up after the game. He was seen with the sleeve over the knee today when we talked to him. Says it's hard getting up this morning, but it generally is on Mondays after games. But that's something to watch going forward. But he was terrific. As you mentioned, he was the focal point of their passing attack, and he delivered.
Cosign. Let me name the duds, and you tell me if I miss anybody. Rhamondre Stevenson, Pop Douglas, Christian Ellis, Alex Austin. Yeah,
and I would throw the offensive line as a run blocking group. I just throw all of them out there. It's got to be, and I include the tight ends in that too. This team needs that to be what they want to be on offense, and 2 out of 3 games they haven't gotten it.
Leftover thought, and this is also a time where we just go, hey, like what's coming next? We did that at the top, right? The fixes, because I think that's important. That's what the conversation will be in the next couple of days. Carolina, I think, is going to be the most telling game we've had here so far. And I say that not because it's a must-win game or the Patriots, need to blow them out or whatever. It's just to say that the first game is the least telling of any game in the schedule. The second game, you go to Miami and win on a bunch of things that have sometimes almost never happened before, with a punt return touchdown and a kick return touchdown, a bunch of missed tackles, but you survive, and there were penalties, and the Dolphins is self-destructed, and it was a good win, don't get me wrong. Then you come and play Pittsburgh and have 5 turnovers, but still have a chance to win the game on the last drive, if you, of course, go for 2. Which is to say, none of these games have been normal. None of them tell you things that you would, not expect or believe, or really need to dive that deep into understand what happens. So thank you for listening to a show that does exactly that. Carolina, though, like, cards are starting to come on the table, right? Teams know who they are. They know what they can do. They know what they can't do. They know how other teams are attacking them. Like, again, the Steelers fixed there. We're giving up just long runs off of the offensive left side. They stopped the Patriots from doing that this week. What are the Patriots going to do to stop space plays, to fix what they're doing run blocking offensively, and to get these turnovers out of May, where teams like the Steelers can be like, cool, 17 plays, 94 yards. You'll screw up. And they're right. That, like, this game, problem solving, opponent you should win, you're at home, is going to tell us more about this team than the last three we've had.
Can I say when I wrote down what comes next? I said a can of whoop ass for Carolina. Like, and I'm not saying it's a must-win game, but like, Carolina's not very good. I know they just beat Atlanta, and I haven't looked at that tape, so I can't tell you how they did it. I know Penix ended up coming out of the game, Cousins in the game because Penix was ineffective. That defense isn't very good. J.C. Horn's a good player. There's a couple good individual players, but as a whole, for the last 2+ years, they've been awful on defense. You've got them coming here. You're coming off this miserable, 5 turnover performance, where yet you were still so close. Like, I don't know. To me, this is one of those games, like, just spank them. Come out here, light them up early, light them up often. And, hey, 2-2 out of September, with the way some of things have gone, like, you could whisper we could be 3-1, we could be 4-0. Like, and I don't think they're that kind of team. But my point is, like, I think this is one of those spots where, quote unquote, get right game. To me, this would be a get right game.
Yeah. Okay, let me have it. What did I say? What did I do that you held on to? Or like, are you effing kidding me? As our penultimate segment here on Mike Giardi Mondays.
I have nothing.
Come on.
I'm not kidding. You're too friggin', like, I don't know, you're locked in. You got like a little like Rain Man thing going on with all the numbers and stuff, but you're just.
How about me being a jerk to Rhamondre Stevenson, who's been on the show and I'm very friendly with, about his fumbling a TV dinner on his way from the kitchen to the couch.
I mean, every once in a while you gotta just people. You make fun of yourself. You make fun of other people. Like, that's what I say all the time. I make fun of everybody, myself first and foremost. Go ahead, hit me.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you have it.
Okay.
You have 2 notebooks and have correlating pages. Like, you need to go back and forth to understand what one means, and the other, like, they're having a conversation in a language that only you understand. Get a big notebook, even if they're big and lean.
Big notebook.
You're breaking the rules again. Okay, let me have it. Where you just have to sit there and you have to take it. Pause. Okay. Look, man, just stick to the big notebook. I have like 4, but I don't need one to understand what the other is saying. Just take notes like a normal person.
I can't really explain it, but it's like there's results.
Oh my God.
And then there's little notes that go on to that. And then there are notes on the other page, like, oh, hey, Will Campbell F this play up, or, they couldn't handle it.
Post-it notes for, but it's not a separate post-it notebook. It's just a note.
If this notebook is this big, then this is kind of like it's a little individual post-it note, but in notebook form. So that then the posted page doesn't get unsticky and end up on the floor. And my dog will eat anything. Like, literally, the kids would say, my dog ate my homework. My dog would eat my homework. My dog he's eaten checks before. He'll eat anything. If it hits the floor, it's his.
Take notes on a laptop. This also sounds like you brought up your dog. Oh, we had to get a little dog because we wanted the big dog to have company. Like, I needed to get the big notebook, a little notebook, so we had a friend when I'm not home, so they can talk to each other, as apparently they do when you're taking notes.
I should have gotten a little dog. I got a big dog, a big rat, smelly beast.
It's rude.
By the way, he put a hole in the chair. The leather chair now has a hole in it.
I'm sorry to hear. I wish I had a leather chair. All right, mailbag questions, and then we'll get out of here. We mostly kept to our promise of keeping this to ourselves about an hour. Amit, what do we have? If you want your questions answered in the comments, drop them now or forever hold your peace. Michael, do we need to get Rhamondre some Bullfrog sunscreen? Help me here.
The grippage?
Oh, grip. That's good. Well, crossover, a little baseball.
Yeah.
By the way, we did not talk about game time, but I'm going to the Red Sox game Friday. Back to the Red Sox, back to Fenway. So long as I live close enough to the park and get tickets at game time. All right, Mike Larry, whatever happened to training camp legend Caleb on Chase? Whatever happened, Mike? Well, first of all, thank you, because we all know that I've been riding Kilowatt
You
Chase.
have been.
Pause. Have been calling him my guy, and he's produced 2 quarterback hits, a run stuff. He was their best defensive player after Robert Spillane.
I would take Landry over him in that case, but he does have more. He had more stats than Landry did.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Landry, man. I get exhausted watching Harold Landry. I'm just sitting here in the same chair, standing, stretching my legs for 12 hours on a Monday, watching film and writing, and I'm tired.
Like, he's listed at 250. Mean, he's like 235, and he doesn't. No, Landry.
Oh,
I mean, that's my guesstimate.
That dude is built,
but he just doesn't stop. I mean, you're going up against 320-pound dudes at tackle, and it's like, they're giving as good as he gets, and he just keeps getting up and keeps coming after him and get by him, and yeah, he makes a lot happen.
Yeah. All right, Amit, do we have much left here?
Amit might have OD'd on the cough medicine at this point.
Was that at the club or right now? Wolfenstein, why has Diggs been so mid? Do you want to jump in front of this slow-moving train with all Patriots Nation watching?
I've said he's not very explosive right now. 2 weeks ago, last week when we talked to him on Wednesday, he said, "I'm doing what they're asking me to do." And I think what they see him being able to do at this point is run the short to intermediate stuff, and we're not really going to push it down the field. There was one play, and he hit Henry. It was a 3rd down play, hit Henry for like 9 or 10 yards for 1st down, where he held the ball for a beat longer. Diggs might have been open in the post, and that might have been the first time that I could say like he was open downfield, where I think you could have maybe thrown him the football. But through 3 weeks, that would be the only instance in my head where I can think of that. So some of it's what they're asking him to do, but I think some of it just is who he is right now.
So in my experience, I'm just doing what they ask me to do, is wide receiver speak for I'm not happy and give me the ball more, which I'm not claiming is what Stefon Diggs is saying. I didn't hear him say it. I've not asked him that question. Just typically in my experience, is that the way you heard it, or is this off base?
Yeah, that's the way I read it. I mean, and again, it could be nothing. But at the time, I think he feels like he's capable of more and would like the ball more. And I don't think he's the only receiver in that regard who feels that way. And we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. Because as I mentioned, 12 catches from the receivers yesterday for 93 yards total, 7 for, I think, 64 or 67 in week 2. Like, they've got to get more out of that group.
Yeah. All right. We are going to send Amit to bed, and we're going to send you to bed. And I'm going to go watch Monday Night Football and think about Stouffer's mac and cheese, maybe pick some up tomorrow. We'll be back later this week. Guest TBD, preview Pats Panthers, which is sneaky, telling, very important game for the Patriots. And then, of course, we'll be back here Monday night, 8 o'clock. Come hang out with us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at _ Andrew Callahan. And, of course, the Patriots Press Pass from the unassailable, unmistakable, what did I say? Stoppable.
Yes.
Predictable. Sure. Shakeable.
I was going to say unremarkable, but that didn't fit.
No. We can't be saying that in front of the bosses. Anyway, this was good, and we'll see you next week.
See you.